Hello everybody, welcome back. Sorry, I just slacked. Just gonna be honest, I wasn't even busy. I just haven't been making videos. I'm fucking dumb. But welcome back. Thanks for sticking around. I do have another fucking Darktide build for you today. This time it's a PSYKER. I don't even really play PSYKER that much, but you know what? Today we're playing PSYKER. And it's definitely not going to be as mechanically useful as like someone with smite coming in or the dome shield, because it uses neither of them. And it also doesn't use the staff that everyone seems so fond of, the one that shoots the big bubble out. Nope. This build is solely based on damage over time and just kind of staggering and cooldown reduction and critical strike chance. I like it a lot. It's got a lot of toughness regeneration, and instead of providing protection for everybody, you're really just going to be focusing on protecting yourself. You're kind of going to be like a glass cannon with a little bit of a glass shield in front of you. So why don't we go ahead and take a look at it. It really, I mean, it's a flamethrower build. I'll be honest. You're just a fucking flamethrower that will occasionally explode with, you know, high single target damage when someone gets up close to you. So why don't we go ahead and take a look at it and just see what exactly I'm talking about. Go ahead and give a breakdown of the melee weapon, the ranged weapon, as well as the talents. For your melee weapon, it's interchangeable. Really, I mean, I don't think it matters too much what you use. I like to have a little bit of high single target damage apart from the head pop. So I went with the Ivy, Demos, MK Ivy, Blaze Force Sword. And as far as the blessings go, one of the biggest draws for me on at least the Force Swords was the Deflector blessing. Block cost is reduced by 30%, and instead of just blocking melee, it blocks ranged as well. So you have some flexibility with that to, you know, not go the PSYKER Dome, or like the shield, unless you want to really help your teammates out. You could also definitely swap Slaughterer out with the Bloodthirsty one, 100% crit chance on your next melee attack after special attack kill, because, I mean, you'll presumably be using head pop a lot. So having that extra, you know, just guaranteed crit chance is going to help you a lot. But I like the Blaze Force Sword. You know, it's got that stab ability, you charge it up. So for our main focus of the build, right, the thing that's actually going to make us a flamethrowing maniac is the Piganus Force Staff, right? The MK2 Purgatus Force Staff. I don't even know if I'm saying that right, but it's pretty dope. Primary action does 32 damage, just like a little puff of fire. It's good if, like, a dog is on you, right, and you need to just push it back, kind of CC it into a corner so you can take out your melee and hit it. With your kinetic flare ability, it's nice because sometimes you'll get that head pop off on the right person, right, just like a little blast of fire, and then the head pop happens. So when that happens, I mean, it's great. But I really only rely on the primary action when I'm in trouble. The secondary action is really what we're looking for, right, when it comes to horde time. It does do 19 base damage, but your criticals, it'll make it worthwhile. And then for the perks, you know, I did go increased range critical strike chance by 5% just because, like I'm emphasizing, this build depends a lot on critical strike chance and critical damage, which we'll go over in the talent section. And then 25% damage increase to maniacs because I hate ragers. I can't take them. I hate the little combo that they do. I hated them in Vermintide 2, and I hate them in this. The blessings that I chose were Warp Flurry, so minus 8.5% charge time on chain secondary attacks, stacks 3 times. That's all you're going to be doing is chaining secondary attacks. You know, decreased charge time is really going to help you out, just maintain that constant flow of damage. And Warp Nexus, which you will gain between 5% and 20% critical chance based on current level of peril. There's going to be probably a lot of times, especially since you can rely on venting Shriek so often, that you're going to be at like 70 to 100% peril. So why not make the most out of it and get higher critical chance, you know, based on those higher numbers? So first, let's start towards the top of the tree. I just want to start out by saying you could absolutely go metal. Critical hits replenish 5% toughness, and then you get the 5% increased movement speed for 4 seconds, which stacks only that I think stacks 3 times. I mean, you could definitely go that, but there's just better options later on in the tree that we'll go over that makes that almost kind of redundant. So I was like, whatever. We got plus 3% warp damage for 10 seconds on critical hits, stacks for 5 times, and that's perfect timing. Replenish 2.5% toughness for every 10% peril generated. Replenish 5% toughness for each 10% of peril quelled. Battle meditation, 10% chance to quell 10% peril on kill. Then you get 15% or plus 15 toughness and perilous combustion. Killing an elite or specialist enemy applies 3 stacks of soul blaze to nearby enemies, causing damage over time. So that right there, I mean, just that alone, that should show you why critical strike chances are going to help you. You're going to get toughness back. You'll do some more damage. So the reason I went brain rupture path is literally for the soul blaze focus. Honestly, I would love to go with Sail with the soul blaze ability. Yeah, but you can't get that. You know, you can't do that. They don't let that, and I don't blame them. That would probably be really broken. Then you get Kinetic Flare, which is all attacks have 10% chance on hit to brain rupture the target. It does have a 15-second cooldown, but when you're shooting your fire into a horde of enemies and there's like a mauler, for instance, it seems, I don't know if it actually does, but it does seem to target like the specialist enemies in the crowd. And you can definitely take this one out. I just like, you know, the toughness damage reduction, because as a Psyker you are kind of squishy. But then you go ahead and get Wildfire. So when an enemy dies while affected by your Soul Blaze, nearby enemies each gain up to 4 stacks of Soul Blaze. They cannot gain more stacks than the dying enemy had. That doesn't matter, because you're gonna be shooting out fire anyways and hitting everybody. But the range of Wildfire, or just like Soul Blaze, where you know the range from enemy to enemy is insane. I mean, it like goes across rooms. People, I'll turn around and people that I didn't think would be on fire are just burning on the ground behind me. I'm like, oh, did I do that? Now your aura, I went with Seer's Presence, and you get the 10% cooldown reduction on abilities for you and allies in Coherency. It's pretty good, because your Venting Shriek will be constantly off of cooldown. You'll partner it with Empathetic Vision. So a critical hit makes you count as dodging against ranged attacks for 1 second. So while you're shooting into a horde and there's ranged people behind that horde, you're pretty much invincible for that time. It's really nice. Did I say invasion before? I meant empathetic evasion. So those go really well together, just to give you that extra like evasiveness and tankiness that you'll need. So then you'll get down to Venting Shriek. And this is another key factor to this build, in my opinion. You die very quickly with Scryer's Gaze equipped. And the Telekine Shield, you could definitely do that, in my opinion. I mean, you really could. But I like to partner with Venting Shriek just because of the damage output. This build is really meant for damage. It's not really meant for, like, you know, to keep everybody else alive. It's meant to just pump out the damage and kind of keep everything off of everybody else. That's how you keep them alive, while also kind of, you know, really helping yourself out. So the Venting Shriek, if you don't know, it just, you scream at people and it immediately quells half of your peril. So that right there, you'll get 50% worth of toughness regeneration immediately upon using that. When you partner it with Becalming Eruption, it now decreases peril generation by 1% for each enemy hit, stacking 25 times, lasts 5 seconds. So you'll hit a lot of people with it when you're facing a horde. So once you let out your scream and then go right back to flamethrowing, your peril generation just drops. You won't generate peril very quickly for a while. And then you will apply 1 to 6 stacks of Soul Blaze to targets hit based on your current peril. So at 100% peril, when you use this, everything in front of you, because it kind of goes out in like a cone shape, so everything in front of you just immediately goes up in flames. Then we'll just follow this tree down, right? This is where things start coming together, culminating into our final destructive build. So Warp Siphon. Killing an elite or specialist enemy gains you a warp charge for 25 seconds, stacking 4 times. Your next combat ability spends all available warp charges to reduce the cooldown of that combat ability by 7.5% per warp charge. The reason I didn't go with Essence Harvest, which replenishes 30% toughness over 5 seconds on gaining a warp charge, is because minus 6% peril generation reduction for each warp charge. You can't beat that. Empyrean Empowerment increases all base damage by 4% for each warp charge. In Fire Reborn, killing an enemy with Soul Blaze has a 10% chance to grant you a warp charge. And then you can store up to 6 warp charges. So we'll go back to here. The new calculation is 45. I think. So that really wraps up the build. Very fun. I love using the flamethrower. Even though it's not as practical as the other, like the little darts or the electricity, it's still really fun. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed that build. And I'll see you in the next one. Take care.